Thanks for tuning in to this session of Beyond Bitcoin's Delegate Edition. Giving potential delegates a unique opportunity to discuss their ideas, plans, and goals to help fortify the BitShares ecosystem. If you're a potential delegate and would like to create your own hangout, then please send your request to beyondbitcoin@gmail.com. Are you finding yourself addicted to our hangouts? Need the next fix? Then please vote for our delegate, fuzzy.beyondbitcoin. Again, that's fuzzy.beyondbitcoin. In addition, you can also check out our new website, beyondbitcoinshow.com, for the latest recordings and events. Now let's join in with our featured delegate.
Welcome to another Beyond Bitcoin Hangout. Today is Friday, March 27th, 2015. Our second hangout of the day is with Wackou, the IT engineer who developed the Digital Gaia tools. His mission? To make running delegates less time-consuming and to strengthen the BitShares network. He has stepped up to become a leader in the community through his work on this project and runs the Btstools Gaia delegate. So please consider giving him a vote, and let's hear what he has to say.
Okay, so for those that don't know me, so my nickname is Wackou, my real name is Nicholas Wack, and I've been a delegate for BitShares since the beginning, so summer last year, and during that time I've been developing some Python tools that help me run the delegate, so things like compile the client by just using one line, not doing all the checkout and all the complicated stuff you have to do, in order to make my life easier. And because I believe that if you want to run a delegate, making your life easier is also making it safer, because then you have to think about fewer things and then you can focus on what you need to do. So if you upgrade, you can just say, okay, I'm going to build them and not think about what the exact command is for building them, because then you have to switch from your backup node to your main node and all the things. And I also added some monitoring drafts so that basically you're always aware of everything that's going on with your delegate, and it sends notification if you have a crash or if you start missing blocks, or if anything goes wrong, that you get notified and that so that you're able to react. And since end of last year, after the merger, I decided to run as a 30% delegate also, for two purposes. One is to be able to spend more time developing those tools. And the second one is a proposal that has been lingering in my head and on the forums for some time also, which is to have what I call a backbone. The word's not very precise, but that would be help for delegates that want to keep their privacy, and especially to avoid denial of service, because when you're a delegate and you sign blocks, basically the only thing that can happen to you, I would say, is that people start sending you lots of packets or try to bring your server down. But if you hide behind some other nodes that do the broadcasting of your blocks, then you're basically invisible to the network. And this way, it's much harder to bring delegates down. And yes, so that's pretty much what I've been doing.
Well, this is a good question. Do you think that this is something that is an issue that most delegates recognize and have already taken care of in your experience thus far, or is it something that you feel that we really need to continue working on as far in terms of the broadcast, the broadcasting nodes being separated from the delegate itself?
Well, the thing is, it's more a preventive measure, because until now we have not, or as far as I can tell, experienced any attack on the BitShares network. Probably because it's still young and has not the same market cap as, let's say, Bitcoin. But this is something that you have to think about before problems happen, because maybe if they happen, maybe it's too late already. And if at some point, let's say BitShares starts gaining traction and attracts lots of people and attracts also nasty people. And if you, let's say, even if the network is just like down for 2 days, that's very bad PR, and you really want to avoid that. And also, I'd like to point out that it's not a bulletproof solution. It's just one more tool, because security is something you don't set up once and then forget about it. It needs to be a proactive task from the parts of the delegates. And I understand that now Pictures is more stable, so upgrades go a little bit smoother. So you can start thinking about those issues. Before, it really required a lot of your time just to do an upgrade smoothly. Now I believe it's time to start thinking about, because people always talk about scalability of the network in terms of throughput, and are we going to be able to handle that many transactions, which is a good thing to think about. But we should not forget also that it should be secure from attacks. That's the reason why I'd like to start pushing this issue.
I think it's a really good.
Go ahead, Reverend.
You're fairly knowledgeable in the space, so I look forward to hearing about how you have a fairly robust network, but it also hasn't, from a security perspective, really tested yet.
Yes, there's a number of different issues with regard to the security, and I hadn't thought at all about the broadcast of the actual the blocks as one of the elements, but of course it is one. But there's also the issue of monitoring and connecting to the direct delegate that generates the blocks, which I have addressed to some degree. So folding it all into a comprehensive security approach that Nicholas is addressing here is really good. I like this.
Well, it says here, we're talking in the backbone.digitalia delegate, correct?
Yes. Just one note, it's digital Gaia, but it's not really important.
Digital Guy?
Gaia.
My apologies.
Digital world.
Yep.
My Apologia. And I'm noticing here that it is currently ranked 230. Now, it seems like you're already doing the work as though it is already in. Now, could you tell us a little bit about what pay rate you're asking for that?
Okay, so the thing is, my website is a bit outdated because originally I planned to run 2 separate delegates. That was at the time before the merger, where delegates were earning only transaction fees and little money. And now the backbone delegates, I kind of merged it into the Btstools, because I now ask for 30% delegate, and that covers everything I intend to do. So the old backbone delegate is kind of outdated and shouldn't be considered anymore. Yes, and this I already work on the Btstools because I've been doing it for some time. And I've been thinking about the backbone proposal. Also, that's the proposal that even Emsky suggested in the forums, like probably August last year. So it's not really new. The thing is, to be able to do this, I would have to set up a few VPS instances for redundancy and for making sure that they're always available, and act as seed nodes also, for instance. And I'd like to have them, first of all, spread over the world, so like in different geographical locations, to make sure that, for redundancy, basically, and on different VPS providers. And for this, I would need to pay for them. So one part of the delegate pay would serve to pay for the VPS instances. The rest would go for me to spend more time, and because I would also have to adapt the tools. At the moment, the tools are intended for, say, a single delegate to monitor its client, which is running on a single VPS. I'd like to expand the tools so that they are able to manage multiple delegates or multiple nodes from a single web interface, so that you have at a glance an overview of everything that is happening. So, for instance, if I have 6 nodes in the backbone that are connected between themselves, you don't want to go to 6 different web pages to see the status of each one. You want to have a panel, like a dashboard, basically, which includes all the information you need to have and to know about the general health of the network. And I mean, at the moment, I'm thinking of the tools to manage this backbone, but one can even think further and have some sort of dashboards that gives information about the entire network, like how many seed nodes are there, how many seed nodes are online, because there's a list of seed nodes that the client can connect to, but it's a hard-coded list, and maybe half of those nodes are down and nobody knows. And if for instance, the number of active seed nodes goes down, this might be something that we want to know before there are no more nodes available. So that's the plan for the future of the tools.
I think that I would like to contribute, not in a technical sense, because I think you're a bit out of my league. But I have a delegate backbone at Riverhead that's a 10% delegate, and its mandate is stuff like this. And I'd be willing to send a scripted portion of his income to an account of your choice to help support the effort. And I think I would be maybe a post on the forum, asking for a slice of some of the backbone delegate. A lot of backbone delegates are running 3% delegates to pay for their VPS and provide a trusted security. And I think it would make sense to petition some of them, say, of your 3%, can we get like 0.5% or sent to you, so that while you have your 30% delegate, the truth is getting a delegate elected is, I find, very difficult. So I think it would be cool if people chip in with some of their delegate funds for this, what I think is a very, very important project.
Yes, that would be nice. And actually, the one is sending funds. The other is, I've been thinking that at the moment, let's say I get voted in and I set this up, all the nodes would be managed by me, which is easier in the beginning because then I can do all the setup properly. Later on, I think that it would be best if, as you said, like delegates would be chipping in and providing nodes themselves. Or for instance, delegates are already the ones providing seed nodes, some of them, and there are a few chain server nodes also, which I believe we should have more of, but it's not a very publicized feature, so not a lot of people are looking into it. And I believe that we could also have, let's say, those backbone nodes that are provided by the community, and then there's one central place where you can see the online state of all those nodes and their availability, but that there shouldn't be a single person that provides those nodes, because ultimately, I believe that the network is decentralized thanks to the delegated proof of stake. But being decentralized doesn't mean that you cannot have specialized nodes that perform a function that helps the network be better in some way or the other. So, for instance, Bitcoin has the problem of full nodes, and they're trying to see how can they incentivize people to run full nodes, not only out of charity, because they help the health and the strength of the network from a topological point of view, I would say. And I believe that if we can find a way in the Btstools network to first of all define what type of specialized nodes would make sense to have, and then how to let's say incentivize or push people to contribute them, I think that would be a major strength of the network too.
That's a really good point that I've never personally thought about. I mean, so you're saying that there would be specialized delegates in your mind that would provide specialized services that would actually, on this technical level?
It could be, yes. I mean, if you think about it, a seed node, it's kind of a specialized node. It's not very specialized in the sense that the only thing that makes it different from the other nodes is that it has a public IP address, and that's it. And so everyone knows how to connect to them. But that's a service that's provided by members of the community. And for instance, if you can think of different services, like on the top of my head, I only have the backbone node now because I've been thinking a lot about it. in the past, but maybe there are some different functions that are or will be necessary in the future. So, for instance, okay, so right now the delegates, they have to run the node and they have to sign blocks, but they also have to provide feeds. And those are two functions for one delegate, but it could be that, I don't think it's going to happen, but let's say it might happen in the future that there are some nodes that are feed providers, and the more the better, because then that the feed prices are closer to the true value.
I have a question for you, Nicholas, if you don't mind. We've had a recent issue with forking and being on the right side of the fork, and does the monitoring tool allow us to see that in real time as to which fork you might be on in terms of the percentage of the network you're on?
Not yet, but it wouldn't be such a big addition. I have an open issue on GitHub that to implement just that. And actually, in GitHub, I have a lot of small ideas like that, like detect when you're on a fork, or warn user when the delegate participation starts going down, or something that happened to me a couple of days ago, which I want to hit my head against the wall every time this happens to me, but I ended up with no free space on my hard disk on the VPS, and then everything started, crashing and for weird reasons. And it would be very easy for the tools to just say, hey, you only have 2 gigs left on your hard drive, like do something or be prepared to have problems. And that's the reason I started in the Btstools to refactor the code a bit and modularize the monitoring thing, which actually was prompted by you contributing your plugin for distributing the payroll. And then I thought, well, if it was super easy to write a plugin, let's call it, for the monitoring tools, then it would be easier for me to write, anything that comes through my mind, but also for other people to contribute.
You answered it. That's very good, and I've seen your modularization, your refactoring, and I think it's a good addition. You mentioned you were going to refine it a little bit, but I think as it is right now, it's actually much more functional and much more modular than it was even a couple of versions ago. So kudos to you.
Thanks. Yes, it was about the forking. Yes, at the moment, the tools, there's no notification sent, but if you go to the info panel of the web interface, then you see that if delegate participation falls below, I think it's 90%, then the cell that shows the delegate participation is in yellow or red. But obviously, this should send a notification.
Did that answer your question, Tom?
Sure did. Thanks.
Now, what are your thoughts, Wackou, on now if everybody is going to be using your tools? Is there going to be an issue with that as far as maybe, a single point of failure in terms of price feeds? Or what are your thoughts on that, and have you considered it in the past?
Well, that's a very valid question. About the feeds, currently my tools, they also publish feeds, but it's a very basic mechanism. It doesn't compare to the tools provided by, I think, Emsky, Alt, Xerox, all those feed publishing that are much more advanced than mine. So let's say if today or tomorrow everyone were to switch to it, I would feel not so confident, but that's limited to the feeds. As for the rest of the tools, there's the part that helps you build and run the delegate. That is just a helper, so I don't really see any problem with centralization here. For the monitoring, you always have the risk that if everyone uses the same solution, then it's a monoculture and a bug or something in this could be disastrous. So probably no, I'd like not everyone to use my tools, but or if people were to contribute. But then, I don't know, it's valid questions. The tools it's not the delegate either, so you can run the delegate without the tools perfectly. So it's not as if the tools were all of a sudden taking control of your delegate and you don't have this power anymore. I see this more as the way I see it more for me is a notification mechanism, so that once it's running, I can forget about it until I get a message on my phone. And then I say, okay, I need to get to a terminal right now, and I need to fix something. And I think that this is something that is good to have by everyone.
And that makes sense. I mean, it's very interesting to see that, you know, that you've come up with this way of kind of automating a lot of the process and making it easier for people to, or maybe not making it easier, but making it more time effective, rather, right?
Yes,
to use it.
Less boilerplate, basically. Yes.
Sure. Have you taken into consideration maybe using this for other chains, or is that going to be? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, the tools they also work for ProtoShares, PTS, I should say, and for what else is DepoSpace? There was DNS is not active anymore. It does work for Sparkle, or did work for Sparkle, and for basically all the delegated proof of stake chains. And the differences between them is really small. For instance, from the web interface, I can monitor from the same place my Btstools delegate, my DevShares delegate, and also my ProtoShares delegate. Because conceptually they're very similar, it's just the chain that's different. But I mean, the code base is the same. They even forked from the same Btstools repository. So, you know, and I clearly see that as could be extensible. For instance, when Btstools Play and Btstools Music are going to come out, I clearly see that I'm going to have to spend maybe, you know, 1 day or two on making sure that it works for those chains. But I really don't see any technical problem there at all.
Are you considering potentially running delegates on those chains as a means of helping to support your work for those chains as well?
Yes, that's the plan. And I've also been thinking that I like this. I think Stan said that he wanted to see, or he expected to see at some point a Cambrian explosion of delegated proof of stake DApps, which I believe will happen at some point in the future. And I believe that there's going to be a need of, there's going to be a definite need for delegates on those chains. And at the moment, there's like this buddy system that Bikemaster mentioned, that you have two people, one person who's running, let's say, as the main figure of the delegate, and the second one, which is the technical guy that runs the actual client on a VPS and takes care of the technical details. And I was thinking that, let's say Btstools Music is probably going to have lots of delegates that have ideas on what music festival to go to, or how to get in touch with artists and all these things, but not necessarily the knowledge to run the client on a VPS. And now that it is possible for an account to have a signing key which is different from the account key, then it makes it possible to run not necessarily as a pair of people, but you will be able to create your account and run as a delegate position, but then you would just change your signing key and to, let's say, mine or to a key I give you, and then I would be, or anyone could be able to run the delegate, not by sharing the delegate pay, let's say 95% and 5%, but for instance, paying constant fee, as a service. For instance, I've been thinking about trying to think of a business plan after that, because I know that the delegate paid is not supposed to be the ultimate goal, and running delegates for people is a service that I could be able to provide for those chains.
Sure, and I mean, this is actually a good question then, I guess, in terms of that. Have you ever considered, I'm sure you're familiar with the term appliances, right? In terms of network administration and things like that. Have you considered maybe making it so it's something like that's automatically updated whenever you update it, and the only time that somebody needs to really reach out to you is if there's a specific issue, and then maybe they can pay you a fee for a subscription fee to subscribe to to the appliance software?
Yes, I'm not sure in which sense you mean appliance here, meaning that they have the stuff that runs, they control the stuff that runs the delegate, but then they would like get in touch with me if they have a problem, or because I see this more as renting. Actually, it's a post from Xerox on the forum when he was talking about all the possibilities that you could do by changing your signing key, which they all seem natural after you read the post, but it didn't like occur to me in that way before reading it. That, for instance, let's say you go on holidays. Let's say you're a delegate and you are able to run all the stuff yourself, but then you go on holidays. And you won't have internet or very little, and you don't want something to happen to your delegate when you cannot connect to the internet. So you might want to say to a friend of yours, hey, could you run the delegate for me during those 2 weeks that I'm in holidays? And now that there's a signing key, you don't need to compromise any of your keys at all. You could just say that when you leave for holidays, you change your signing key to the one from your friend. And then 2 weeks later, you change it again to yours. And now if you replace your friend by a service or someone that's running delegates for a 50 BTUSD fee a month, then I think that's a very clean solution to the problem of splitting the responsibilities, the technical responsibilities of the delegate and the intended goal or mission that they set themselves to do.
Were you talking, Fuzzy, more about, for example, having a subscription fee for the software, the Btstools software? So, I mean, right now we're all kind of operating on a voluntary basis, but as time goes on, people start seeing the value in these tools to simplify their life in terms of compiling new versions of the delegate or monitoring the delegate or whatever plugins and add-ons he might decide to add. There's value in that, and as time goes on, it just simplifies life. So why not have him charge directly for that software? Right now, I don't see that as a very viable model, but I don't see that would be a problem for the future.
And I guess in terms of appliances, and this is just from my reading, I don't have a whole lot of experience actually using them. Okay, but from what I understand, the appliances are something that it helps to. If I'm setting up a server, I can kind of just click a checkbox when I'm setting it up, and it will load maybe the delegate software that it'll set up the delegate by itself whenever I check on that checkbox. So there might be, multiple different kinds of delegates, or delegates for multiple different kinds of chains, and I can check this box, and this box, and the machine will be ready to run those 3 delegates once I've fulfilled the setup, waited for the server itself to set up, and then from there it would just automatically check for updates, and it would update itself. And if there are problems, then you would have to maybe reach out to somebody to help you. But it makes it easier. So in general, a lot of IT teams will use appliances, so they don't necessarily have to have somebody who's a specialist who runs a certain service.
It sounds like you're talking about something like Vagrant or something like that, where it would actually configure and set up the operating system on the VPS and whatever options are appropriate for whether it's going to be a chain server or a delegate node or a seed node or something like that, and automate that whole back-end IT process at the VPS level. It requires a VPS backup service to do that, but it is reasonable to have such a service. But I don't know if Nicholas, if you've thought about that level of capability or not.
Well, I kind of thought about it in the sense that this is what I'd like to have for myself, so that I can do as little as possible while still maintaining the delegate running. The thing is, the problem I see with this approach is that the setup would probably be something that would be feasible, like one-click installation of a delegate, or maybe a couple of clicks. The problem is that, and maybe even upgrading the client would be something that you could automate with a certain degree of confidence. the main problem I see is reacting in case of problems, because then the solution is not obvious, and most of the time you still have to go put your hands in there and manually remove. I don't know, like for instance, as I said, like a couple of days ago, my hard disk got full, and then I had to delete some stuff. This is something that probably you need manual intervention if it happens to you. It's not something that you could ever make a program that would, with a 99% degree of confidence, that it could do it automatically for you. So I believe at the moment there's still a bit of things moving in the Btstools client on the network, and that you still require a human intervention. Maybe in the future, such an appliance would be something that could be possible or even desirable. At the moment, if I were to, let's say, make such an appliance and give it to someone, I would also like to be able to have direct access to it in case I need to, in case of emergency situations. Because maybe, it's not something you can do over the phone, or it's not something you can tell someone, and then the next block you have to sign is in 15 minutes and you need to act quick. So at the moment, I think it would be more harmful to do it than beneficial. Again, the thing is, I'd like to automate as much as possible for myself, because then I spend less time, just watching over Delegate, or just need to go once a day and see that all the lights are green and everything is running as expected. But making it foolproof for everyone, I think it's still best to have one dedicated person that looks over the Delegate and takes responsibility for missed blocks or loss of connectivity or anything that might happen.
There's a security risk, is what I'm gathering you're saying. If everybody adopts this type of like an appliance type of software that just runs the Delegate for them, essentially. And
I think he's saying that it's just early in the development of in the DPAW's delegated purpose stake scheme to have the level of automation that you're suggesting. Is just too early for that, I think.
Yes, I agree.
And and the reason I brought it up actually was because, Wackou, you brought up something about Stan talking about the Cambrian explosion, right?
Yep.
And whenever that happens, in my mind at least, I've always thought, and this might be incorrect. This might not be how you see it, and please tell me if you think I'm walking the wrong path here. I've always visualized, people being able to kind of subscribe to a chain that they believe in that, might have the community itself has a philosophy of sorts that they believe in more so than maybe another community. Maybe BitShares itself gets really big, and there are certain things that are going on that another community starts to form, and people want to kind of move there. And there's thousands of different chains, and because of that, there's thousands of different kind of collective philosophies that everybody can decide which decentralized community they want to be part of. And if, my mom might want to have I might want my mom to have her own Delegate running on, her open source router in her closet, as income, to help produce income or something to that effect. I don't see, I don't know where you guys stand on that stuff, but it's kind of an interesting proposition.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you. I mean, again, I think that we haven't even seen the beginning of what the blockchain technology is going to allow us to do. And if this Cambrian explosion happens, and I believe it will, at least in some sort or some, then blockchains are going to be like, like interest groups, or they're going to be like chat rooms on an IRC servers, and there are going to be like hundreds of thousands of different interests and people that are trying to form community and try to do something. And for instance, I can see that delegates in Btstools Music and Btstools Play and Btstools BTS, the distribution of the delegates in function of what they bring to the network is going to be really different. For instance, we see in Btstools that there's lots of on-off off-ramps and marketing delegates and this type of delegates, whereas I can see that for Bitches Music, it's mostly going to be related to connection with artists and music festivals, whereas if you do it for Bitches Play, maybe it's going to be like, I don't know, like online gaming sites or gaming communities or these type of things. And so I really do believe that at some point in the future, it should be really easy to run a delegate, and it should, as you said, be not a lot more than just having an appliance that runs it for you, because even though the real goal of the delegate is to sign blocks at the moment, people that are running for delegates, paid delegates that are not 3% but more than that, they don't run on the fact that they're going to sign blocks. They run on the fact that they're going to provide another service to the blockchain that is related to the blockchain function. And this is actually what matters in the end. Signing blocks, I don't want to say it's going to be a byproduct of it, but it's needed to have the network run correctly. But really, I believe that the values that the delegated proof of stake system brings is that you have those 100 people that compete on providing a service to the blockchain, which they can come up with,
Definitely. It's going to be very interesting, and I'm glad to be able to revisit and know that you got into that you got into a place where you can continue working on this. I spoke with Tom not too long ago, and he was one of the first people I heard of using your tools, and I was made aware that yours had a GUI interface, and it kind of made it a little bit easier for in terms of that. So somebody didn't necessarily have to get into the CLI to administer it. So it's kind of cool to hear how everything is moving forward, man.
It was actually Tom was the first person that got in touch with me also with questions and remarks about the tools. So thank him for that. And he went through when I wrote the tutorial on how to set up a VPS delegate, he went through it and helped me figure out all the inaccuracies or the small warts, stuff that didn't work as advertised and things like that. So that was really nice. And I'd like to say that if there are other people using the tools that have questions or doubts or problems or whatever, that please get in touch with me.
Sounds good. And from what I gather, it is safe to say that if somebody comes to me and is going to be creating their own delegated proof of stake blockchain, that you are interested in potentially working with that one as well.
Yes, that is correct. Yes.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. Does anybody else have any questions, or would you like me to continue talking the entire? I'll talk all day long.
Well, I just want to jump in and give kudos to Nicholas for the wonderful work he's done on his tools. I might have been the first one, but I'm sure that I won't be the last, because he has provided a tremendous amount of value there. And it was a nice entry for me, because I had never really done any programming with Python before, and it gave me an opportunity to do that in a manner that was pretty simple and straightforward. And that was to a large degree because of the structure of his tools. It made that easy. So my hat's off to him, and I highly recommend his tool set. And especially, unfortunately, Kronos has left the building. But for people that are just getting started with doing a delegate, this was my foray into the delegate space, and I found that using his tools had his level of frustration at times, but I was able to triumph over it, and I think both the tools as well as my understanding have benefited from that.
Thank you for that.
With that said, Wackou, is there anything that you'd like to end this particular hangout on?
Not really. I want to thank you for having me again on the Delegate Hangouts, and thank everyone for listening to me. Just like for delegates, start using my tools if you like them or not. If you are interested in the backbone proposal, I will probably post the link again in the forums. Remember to vote for me, and I'm very happy to hear any comments or suggestions on anything I do.
Alrighty. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop this. Thank you for showing up.
Thank you.